Just speak?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, I'm Janie Ho. 20 months ago, I was hit by a car while walking home in Staten Island, a hit and run. If that person is watching, I would love to meet you someday. I say that in an unaffected and matter-of-fact way right now. I simply just dream of the day that I can meet you. I had 4 broken bones. I spent 3 weeks in the hospital at Staten Island University. I learned to walk again. I stayed up all night in hand quivering, teeth chattering pain. In my spare time, I am forever a different person since that night 20 months ago. One New York Times staffer wrote in an article to his many colleagues who were also hit in New York City, "I don't mean to alarm you, but your life will not likely ever be quite the same again." It's very painful to get hit by a car. It takes years away from your life. 200 people are injured every day from crashes in New York City. That's every 6 minutes. 4 years ago, New York City committed to eliminating traffic fatalities by 2024. We're making progress. Traffic fatalities are down 24% in New York City, while it's up 14% in the rest of the US. Speeding is the leading cause of traffic deaths and injuries, including my own, more than drunk driving and distracted driving, including texting combined. We have a culture of reckless driving, especially in Staten Island, but also in New York City and everywhere. The goal is to make it socially unacceptable to speed, as we did for drunk driving decades ago. This is a preventable public health crisis. More than a dozen New York City hospitals have joined us in fighting to eliminate traffic fatalities that they have to treat every day. They have issued a joint statement of support in speeding safety cameras, and I thank the mayor for standing with us so that people don't have to endure what I'm still enduring today.
Well done.
Oops. I'm Judy Kotick. I'm here with Families for Safe Streets. It was a cold, clear night in January when the call came in at 11 p.m. To this day, 5 years later, I can't believe I had to hear the words that our graceful, sure-footed daughter, Ella, was crossing the street on her way home from the subway in Ridgewood, Queens, and was struck by a reckless driver. 5 days later, we walked out of Kings County Hospital with our world totally shattered. In the beginning, my husband, son, and I thought we were the only unfortunate souls who had been struck by this tragedy. But slowly we discovered that the intersection where Ella was killed was the scene of other fatalities and injuries. Then we heard of family members all over the city who had lost loved ones in traffic or had been injured themselves, including Janie, who you just heard from, Maria Miranda, who's here today, whose son was injured in Staten Island a year ago on his bike, and Joan Dean, whose grandson was killed in Brooklyn, and also one of Ella's co-workers less than a year after her crash. Advocating for street safety is not anything I could have imagined for myself, but I am speaking to you today as a bereaved mother and members of Families for Safe Streets, an organization of people who've lost loved ones or been injured on the streets of New York. We all share the dream of making our streets safer so no one else joins the ranks of our organization. Speed cameras save lives, and they are being turned off tomorrow. This means drivers will get the green light to speed, and your children are at risk. A bill to expand the program to 290 schools passed the Assembly, but a few senators prevented it from being voted on, including the senator from Staten Island, Senator Lanza. He is playing Russian roulette with people's lives. You may think this could never happen to you, but I'm here to tell you, when you prioritize drivers over human lives, everyone is at risk every single day. I hope everyone listening will join us in our fight to keep families safe on our streets. If there had been speed safety cameras near where my daughter was killed 5.5 years ago, she might still be alive. Let's make this happen. And now I'm honored to introduce Mayor de Blasio, who has done so much for street safety in New York and has been a leader on the cameras for a long time. Thank you for sticking with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. And I think it's so painful to listen to those who have lost loved ones or those who themselves have been victims of these crashes. I've been at so many gatherings when I've heard these powerful stories. I can say, well, I know we all feel, I wish we never had to hear a single one of these stories. I wish you didn't have to lose your daughter. I wish you didn't have to go through the agony of what you have gone through. But I have to say that Judy and Janie do that thing that I admire so much, which is someone been through adversity turns it into an effort to help others. And I know it's not easy because it causes you to have to remember each time. But I really want to thank you both for not just standing idly by, but doing something powerful. And everyone at Families for Safe Streets, they've been champions and they are saving countless lives through their activism. Let's thank Judy and Janie, everybody, for what thing they do. You know, we're here at PS 78, and it's important to be in a school at this moment as something's about to happen that really does not make sense to anyone, particularly those of us who are parents and have thought about what it means to take our kids to school and drop them off and want to know that they will be safe throughout the school day and after the school day. When you think about, here we are, PS 78 in Staten Island, a place that has a summer school program where kids are still going to summer school. And right now, all over the city, we have speed cameras literally this minute protecting kids. But we also know that because of inaction in Albany, that literally the hours and the minutes are ticking away to the point where we're not going to have these speed cameras. Literally, there's a countdown clock right there. 26 hours, 8 minutes, 11 seconds until 120 speed cameras will be turned off. And I just can't make sense of it, how something that clearly protects people, protects children in particular, could slip through the hands of our public servants in Albany. And I think what people are saying is that we're not going to stand for something that we know endangers our own families. So I'm going to ask this group of good people here, I want to thank everyone who's here, all the activists, all the community residents, and particularly the kids who are here, because you are fighting for your safety. So I'm going to ask everyone, I want to hear your voices loud and clear. Do we need safe streets and safe schools?
Yes.
I'm going to ask you again, do we need safe streets and safe schools?
Yes.
Are we going to let the state Senate off the hook?
No.
The bottom line is the evidence is in. You know, I wouldn't mind it if there wasn't evidence, but there is. Where the speed cameras are placed by schools, speeding has gone down 60%. And I want to tell you about some research that's come out recently that now looks back over the time we've had the speed cameras by the schools, and in those zones, fatalities are down 55%. 55% decrease. These stories, these painful stories, wouldn't happen, just like you heard, if the cameras were in place. We just had the safest 6 months in the history of New York City in terms of reducing traffic fatalities. The safest 6 months in our history, and speed cameras were a big part of it. So there are so many pieces of evidence. And yet, as we're talking, that clock continues to tick down. And it all comes down to a simple idea. The Senate has to come back and finish the job. They have to come back and renew and expand the speed cameras so we can keep people safe. Now, right now, honestly, there's no timeline, there's no plan. But we know that voices like this from all around the city are going to make a difference. And we know that more and more parents are speaking up, more and more community members are speaking up and saying they can't believe that Albany is failing to act on this issue. You know, again, kids are going to be in summer school over these next weeks. We need the speed cameras then, but school, the regular school year is starting in about 6 weeks from now. And then 1.1 million kids going to school, coming from school every day. I can't think of more urgency than that. We are all going to keep the pressure on the Senate until the job is done. One other thing I want to say, you know, there's always this pushback we get on this issue. And I say to everyone, I think it's a matter of common sense, the only people who should fear speed cameras are people who are speeding, right? If you're not speeding, you're not going to have a problem. And this is the thing I never understand about this whole discussion. We know speeding goes down because of cameras. We know fatalities go down. The only people inconvenienced are the people who are already breaking the law. So this is about common sense. We lose at 5:30 tomorrow. We lose 120 cameras. 120 life-saving cameras go dark at 5:30 tomorrow. We still have, by the law, 20 mobile cameras that we can continue to use in sites all around the city. So I would want to remind motorists of that fact. Any place near a school, one of those mobile cameras could be for the next 30 days or so. We're going to do everything in our power with all the tools we have to protect our children and protect all New Yorkers. But we can't do the same thing that these speed cameras do in every place we need to be. We cannot replace the impact of 120 speed cameras with the resources that we have. So we need to keep fighting. We need to keep fighting because literally, even if we save just one life because of these speed cameras, it's worth it. And that's what moves us all. I want to say a few words in Spanish. Mañana las cámaras de control de velocidad en nuestras zonas escolares dejarán de funcionar si el Senado estatal no hace algo. Estas cámaras salvan vidas y exigimos saber por qué el Senado no protege a nuestros niños. Llaman a sus senadores estatales hoy y díganles que hagan su trabajo. I'm going to say that in English as well. Call your state senator today and tell them to do their job, get back to Albany, and pass the speed camera bill. Is that what we need?
Yes!
When do we need that?
Now!
Perfect. I want to now bring forward a man who has the awesome responsibility for thinking about 1.1 million kids, their health, their well-being, their safety, their education, as Chancellor of the biggest school system in the entire nation, our Chancellor, Richard Carranza.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I want to thank everyone that's here, especially our parents and our students that are here. I just want to echo what the mayor has said. This is not necessarily a matter of policy. It's not necessarily a matter of finance. It's a matter of life and death. And when you think about those 120 cameras that in 26 hours will shut off, if only one life is saved for every one of those cameras, that's 120 lives. And you multiply that by whatever number that actually is, this is a matter of life and death for our children. And it's a simple fix. And as the mayor has said, there is data that shows that these cameras are effective. So I am going to ask the Senate, I'm going to beg the Senate on behalf of the 1.1 million children in New York City, please return to Albany. Please give us the tools to ensure our children are safe coming to school and going home after school. Quiero otra vez decir lo que ha dicho nuestro alcalde. Por favor, a todos los miembros del Senado, regresen por favor a Albany y pasen esta legislación que va a asegurar la seguridad de nuestros hijos, nuestros niños. Y todos los padres de familia, por favor, háblenle a su senador estatal y pídenle que por favor vuelvan y hagan su trabajo, que es pasar esta legislación para el bienestar de nuestros niños. It's a matter of life and death. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. I want to bring up one of the real heroes of Vision Zero, and we talk about the safest 6 months we've had on our streets in our history, and she's one of the reasons why, with a great team at DOT, our Commissioner Polly Trottenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and it's great to be here with the Children and Families for Safe Streets and Judy and Janie and so many others who have helped us, as you've said, Mr. Mayor, not only achieve the safest 6 months in the history of the city, but really now the safest 4.5 years. And as DOT Commissioner, as I travel around the country or I talk to my fellow commissioners in other cities, I'm constantly asked how New York is doing it. Because nationwide traffic fatalities have gone up the past 4 years. Pedestrian fatalities have gone up the past 4 years. And here in New York, we have dramatically bucked the national trend. And it is clear that speed cameras have been part of the puzzle. And when we talk about those numbers, right now, compared to last year, we are at 22 fewer fatalities, which is a pretty dramatic place to be. And again, as we all know, standing here with our colleagues, those aren't just numbers. That's our family, our friends, our coworkers, our fellow New Yorkers. And I want to join. I think the Chancellor put it well. I too want to beg the Senate, please come back and pass the bill and enable us to continue to use these speed cameras. They really have saved lives in this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this is an issue that reaches every neighborhood, all 5 boroughs, but I know it's deeply felt here in Staten Island. This is a borough that particularly relies upon cars to get around, but that also means that the challenges, the dangers to our kids are very real. And someone who knows plenty about the needs of her community and protecting the children of her community, Councilmember Debbie Rose.
Thank you, Mayor, and to all of the commissioners and the chancellors and the young people and families that have been negatively impacted by the lack of safety in our streets. And everyone that's here, I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for having this press conference, because people did not seem to get that there are only 26 hours left to ensure that our young people, our families, are safe. 26 hours. That's 1 day and 2 hours left to keep our young people safe. Every day I drive past schools, but every day I drive past one particular school, the School of Civic Engagement, and that school has the notable distinction of having had a jubilant 5th grader leaving school, the last day of school, very happy, and had the unfortunate event happen where she was hit by a car and she died. And as a result, a little too late for her, but as a result, a speed camera was placed on the service road that exits off of the Staten Island Expressway, which young people had to cross to get to the bus, to get either home or to school. And so I see firsthand every day, because I live in that neighborhood, every day, how speed cameras have slowed people down. No one wants to get that ticket. And it's not just that I've seen it with my own eyes, but the data confirms it. And the NYPD endorses it. So it's a no-brainer. So I have to say to the New York State Senate, what is the holdup? It is totally perplexing and frustrating to me, and that our state legislators would deny us in city government the right to protect the lives of our students and families with speed cameras. They're already there. It's a no-brainer. We're not asking for money, Mr. Mayor, are we? No, the infrastructure is there. So these legislators have no problem talking the talk about working with NYPD to protect our public safety, especially our youngest and our most vulnerable constituents. Now they need, no pun intended, they need to walk the walk and give us the right to use this life-saving tool. This is really a matter of life and death. It's not a political game. 26 hours to save the lives of our children and our families. And so for the safety of students who walk to school and their families, I call on our state legislators to reconvene. That's something they could do. I'm a city council person. We don't have the summer off. They can reconvene so that we in city government and our partners in law enforcement have the necessary authorization and the tools that we need to keep our students and our families safe. 26 hours, save our students. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Council Member. I want to remind everyone, the Assembly passed not only an extension of speed cameras, but an expansion of speed cameras. The governor's made very clear he would support that legislation. This is just about one last piece of our state government coming back and finishing the job. I want to give real credit to the Assembly for taking such a strong leadership stance. And one of the driving forces in the Assembly on this issue is about to speak to us. And I wish I could tell you it was just because she was defending her constituents and she understood the reason for this life-saving legislation. But unfortunately, she too is a victim of a traffic crash. Assemblymember Rodney's Bishop has lived for years with the impact of having been hit by a car, but she also is turning that pain into action on behalf of others. So I want to welcome Assemblymember Bishop.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here out in Staten Island. My name is Rodney Bishop. I represent the 42nd Assembly in Flatbush, Brooklyn. And it's really an honor to stand here with so many advocates. I want to thank the Transportation Alternatives and Families for Safe Streets, all the families and the victims, and I also want to acknowledge Judy Cardick and Janie Ho for their strength in moving this along. I also want to acknowledge Councilwoman Debbie Rose for being such a strong advocate, and we thank you for having us in our district. But I certainly want to, again, steer some attention to the mayor, who has been the leading voice on this issue of speed camera. You know, oftentimes, when issues come to lawmakers, such as myself, they tend to seem complicated, and almost always there's a winner and there's a loser. However, in the speed camera case in the school zones, there's no such difficulty. And that's why I co-sponsored the speed camera bill. But tomorrow, we're going to have a number of losers. But tomorrow, 26 hours later, New York City loses. Our children lose. Our families, our victims. And as the mayor had mentioned, this is a personal issue for me because I narrowly survived by a by being struck by a speeding car. I was bed rest for 6 months at the age of 10. I wanted to be a dancer, not a politician. But I was permanently damaged. And every day when I limp, when I know my limitations, I think about that moment in the mid-'80s when I got hit by a car and almost died. And I could just imagine all the families and what they're going through, having to relive losing a child, losing a family member as a result of a speeding car. So as the Assembly member, again, who's a co-sponsor of all the speed camera bills, it is clear and straightforward that the Senate must reconvene to extend the city's ability to use red light and stoplight cameras in school zones. The safety of our children is not a political bargaining chip, and it is certainly not a partisan issue. Ask any parent. They will tell you politics ends with the lives of our children. And so I joined the mayor and all of you, fellow elected officials, community leaders, concerned parents, to not only call the state Senate. Okay, as the mayor mentioned, we on the Assembly, we passed this. And he mentioned also that our governor, Governor Cuomo, support this. So what's holding this up? So I'm going to actually call on Governor Cuomo to even supersede and call for a special session. Call for a special session or write an executive order, because our children matters. We have to save our children's lives. And when we do that, they will have no choice. The Senate will have no choice. So with that, again, I want to thank all of you for being here. And let's go to Albany. The Senate needs to go back to Albany to protect our children. Thank you.
I want to really commend Rodney Spichot for telling her story and talk about turning her pain into action now as a member of the Assembly. Let's give her a big round of applause for that. So the message is clear. I want to thank everyone for standing up for what our kids need. While we've been here, the clock keeps counting down now. 25 hours, 47 minutes, 52 seconds. So let's send a message to Albany that's really loud. I want to hear how loud you can be. We're going to simply tell the Senate, pass this bill. Okay, let's see you do that very loudly. 1, 2, 3. Pass this bill. 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 All right, you did good. You did good. Everyone, we're going to keep fighting until we get it done, right? Yes. All right, thank you, everybody.